Hello everyone, welcome to Kubernetes Introduction tutorial. In this tutorial, we will know about what is Kubernetes, what problem it tries to resolve, what's the architecture behind it, and then some of the building blocks and the concepts of Kubernetes. And finally, we will look into are there any other options available for container orchestration apart from Kubernetes. So let's look into what is Kubernetes and about its origin. So Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration system which helps to manage containerized application. It was initially designed by Google and is currently being maintained by CNCF. So with the development of container tools like Docker, it became very easy for us to deliver and to ship our products as a containerized application to the end user. And it worked perfectly when, let's say, the number of users are very less. So maybe a single container could be enough to take up the load. But when, let's say, more number of users are actually using your application, and it could the running container could become overwhelmed by the limited resource underlying to it. But yes, we can actually go ahead and create more and more containers out of the same image, and it could be used to serve a wide number of user base. But yes, doing this is a manual process, and that is why we need container orchestration tools like Kubernetes. So first, let's look into some of the problem with the manual creation and manual management of container running containers. So just think of how are we going to manage hundreds and thousands of containers manually. Definitely it is going to be a tedious task. How are we manage the increase and the decrease in the traffic? Let's say our user wants to have a ad campaign running and they know that this could increase the traffic coming to their application. So it should be controlled automatically, and when that ad campaign finishes, it should be capable of removing the unused containers which we don't need, which we are not going to use it, so that we don't consume the underlying resources. Finally, how are we going to decrease the human error? Because the creation, the deletion, and the updation of, let's say, if you have a new code, you need to go ahead and update each and every image, and then create a container out of it and remove the older ones. All those things are going to be a manual task, and when there is a manual task, there is a high possibility of human error. So how are we going to eliminate human error when we are managing the containers manually? Okay, so let's look into some of the benefits of container orchestration tools like Kubernetes. So container orchestration tools simplifies the management, the complex management that we do manually, like creation of underlying containers or removing those containers when they are not in use. So all these things can be managed by container orchestration tools. They also provide resilience by providing restart and scaling capability. So these container tools, container orchestration tools like Kubernetes, they have the capability of, let's say, whenever your pod goes down, it will automatically recreate a different pod, and that they will basically try to make sure whatever is your desired state. So let's say if you want 3 running containers, it will make sure that you have 3 running containers all the time. And if for any reason, let's say if one of the pod goes down, it will definitely turn up another pod. So all these concepts about pod and the other architecture we will look in just like couple of slides from here. Last, it adds more security by reducing and eliminating the human error by just removing all those manual steps to manage the containers manually. We all need to give our what is our required or the final step, and the other steps are being carried out by the container orchestration tool. So thus there is very less human intervention and hence less human error. Okay, so let's have an introduction to the architecture. We will take a look at each and every component discussed here in the coming up tutorial. So in Kubernetes, we have two major components. We have a master component and then we have a worker component. So the responsibility for master component is to control and manage the complete cluster, whereas the worker component is responsible to run the workload. Actually, it runs our container, our application is being executed at the worker nodes. And here in the image, you can see I have divided it into two parts. The first part is called, which is on the left hand side, is called the control plane. So control plane consists of the required tools and application such as etcd, scheduler, you have the kube API, and then you have cluster manager. Whereas on the other side, we have kubelet, which actually connects with the control plane and shares the information and acknowledges the control plane about the health and about the running node on which it is running. Then we have kube proxy, and it can have our pods also running into it. Okay, moving on to the next topic, and that is the building blocks, the concept, the terminologies used within Kubernetes. So majorly we have four types of building blocks, which I can break it in down. We have basic objects like pod, volume. We have service type like cluster IP and node port. Then we have controllers like deployment, replica set, and finally we have already seen, we have control plane like master. Okay, so moving ahead, let's look into the basic object. So we have four basic objects in Kubernetes. The first one is the pod. So pod is the smallest and the most basic deployable object in Kubernetes. It could be anything. It could be the containers, our container, the running application. It could be the storage resources. It could be unique IPs, and it could be local options. So it could be a combination of all these things. So a pod will have a container, it could have its own storage resource, it will have its unique IP, and maybe it can have its own local options. Volumes. So volumes are the persistent storage, and it can be sometimes shared between multiple running pods also. Namespace. Namespace is a concept where we can have a virtual cluster running on top of an actual physical cluster. With the help of namespace, we can achieve that. Finally, service. Service is an abstraction layer on top of a set of empirical nodes, empirical pods. So the idea here is, let's say, if a pod goes down and a new pod turns up, it could have a different IP address, and some other application, when it tries to reach the previous IP address, it won't work. So it can have a service that is always running, and all the pods, whatever be their IP, we just use it via the service that is being exposed via the Kubernetes. Moving ahead to the service types. So we have four different type of services available. The first one is called the cluster IP. So cluster IP exposes the service at a cluster level only. So it doesn't expose it to the outside world. So it just exposes it within the cluster itself. And this is the default type. The second one is called node port. Node port exposes service at a specified port on all the nodes. So let's say if we have 3 nodes running, and if we have a service that should be running on port number 80, it will expose it for all the running nodes could access it on that port number 80. The next point, that is load balancer. So load balancer exposes a service with a cloud service provider's load balancer. And then finally, we have external name. This maps a service to the endpoint completely outside the cluster. Moving ahead to the controllers. So we have 5 different type of controllers. The first one, the replica set. So replica set makes sure that we have a certain number of pods always running. So let's say if we want 3 pods always running, we can create a replica set and instruct it to always have 3 pods running. The second is the deployment. So deployment provides a declarative approach where we can define our desired state for the pods and for the replica set, and Kubernetes management system will take care of meeting our desired state to the actual state. The third one is the stateful set. So this is mostly used for non-interchangeable, or we can call it as a stateful pods. Then we have daemon set. So daemon set ensures that either all or some of the nodes run a copy of a pod. So let's say we have 4 worker nodes and we want some pod to be running on either all or at least let's say 3 node. So we can create a daemon set for that, and that will make sure it runs on each and every worker node, or at least whatever is defined in the daemon set. The last point, that is called job. So it manages a set of pod and it runs it, and then it tracks for the overall progress of it, and finally we can have the capability of fetching the result out of that job. So moving on to the last point about the different concepts and the building block is the control plane in itself. Control plane consists of master, and it we look into master and we look into what is node, and then we look into what is a namespace. So master manages the cluster state by the help of Kube API server, which is the entry point for all the requests. Whatever the different components want to talk to each other, they need to connect it via the Kube API server. Next, we have the Kube controller manager. This is like the brain of the Kubernetes infra. And finally, we have the Kube scheduler that helps in the scheduling of pod creation or deletion or updation. So it is being taken care by Kube scheduler. Then we have the nodes. So these nodes are actually the individual machine or the virtual machine that make up the cluster. So in nodes, what we have kubelet and we have kubeproxy. So kubelet is responsible for communication between the master and the running node. And finally, we have the namespace. So namespace is a virtual cluster on top of an underlying physical cluster. Moving ahead to the next point, and that is what are the different options for orchestration tools is what we have. So on the left hand front, we have Docker Swarm. So this is the default application provided by the Docker team for container orchestration. So Docker Swarm is quite easy to use, to understand, but it is limited by functionalities. Whereas on the other hand, we have Apache Mesos, which is really tough to get it up running, but it has a lot of features. At the sweet spot and what is mostly used in the industry is what we have, Kubernetes. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining. See you soon.